Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Beyond Interactive podcast with Popshap. We are on episode 3 today. My name is Dalia Lopez, and we have CEO of Popshap, Mr. Eitan Magid, here as well. Hey, Eitan.
Nice to be here again. Good to see you,
Yeah.
Dalia. Good to see you, John.
And we have our special guest, Mr. John Zipay. Did I pronounce that right, John?
Zipay, Zippy,
John
Ziploc.
Zipay.
I've been called it all.
Good.
Thank you for having me. Nice to meet you, Dalia.
Yeah, so we're excited to have you. To get this thing going, I'm just going to, if you could give us just a quick rundown on what On Location is and what you guys provide.
Sure, absolutely. We are a national labor I&D company. We do installation and dismantles for trade shows and events across the country. We also do corporate environment installations, new product activations, such as sporting events. Sometimes there's tents outside and stuff set up. So a variety, but live events is the focal point.
Nice, awesome. And so I did pull up just a quick history of the On Location here. If anyone's watching wants to pause and take a look at that.
Absolutely. We've been around a long time. Like I said, national company. We've got union contracts in all the major cities. The company has been around since the early 90s. Some strength markets are the Northeast is really strong for us, Vegas, Texas, Florida, Illinois. So the major markets, we're not in every smaller market across the country, but the majority of trade show cities within a few hour drive.
Nice.
Yeah, we, Dalia, I don't know if you know that, but we met at a trade show. And I remember when it was like, oh, On Location. I wonder what they do. Because I thought they were another provider, that does, from the name, I didn't know what to expect. But I remember thinking, let me approach, and we had a conversation. And I said, a company is going to come, not compete with us, help us, so that we can expand. Sounds about right. And this was the best timing because I remember very clearly, I think I mentioned to you, John, that the time we were, engaged with Shepherd to expand the operation. And I said, I remember every night thinking, how are we going to do all of that without the extra help? So the partnership so far has been amazing. Pleasure to work with your team. And so
I think I remember you saying, I see green shirts, and then I'm in another city and I see green shirts. So what do you guys do? And then you called me and we kind of hit it off, and, with the family and the industry and so forth. And, it's been a great partnership. We've learned a lot about your product and what you do as far as, in the business technology world. And, and I think we've been a good extension for you on the back of the house and the fulfillment side, which we'll get into.
It's exactly what it is. You said it. It's an extension to our service. So the great thing about having a partner that can provide the same services is the seamless customer service to the exhibitor, right? They don't feel like they're getting less of a service. They're getting the same quality. They're getting the same responses. They're on the same page. It took some training, but now I tell you, our clients don't know who's doing the installation and removal. For them, it's all one big entity, and that's what we achieve to get to that level. So I want to.
That's a great compliment. Yeah, that's a fantastic compliment right there.
It is, and it's you guys became an arm for our operations. So, and I want to start on that. Some of the pain points in the industry, right? We all know logistics challenges, getting things. I want to hear from you. What have been, post-COVID, the biggest challenges in your operations and in working with companies similar to us or other companies? Just an inside look. Give us
Absolutely. Well, you've got, everybody hears about the labor shortage. So that's just worker shortage. I mean, we're in the labor business of hands, time and materials, tracking. But it's truly a worker shortage, in our industry across the board, from a physical blue collar touch and go. A lot of people, there's different studies out there. There's there's the boomers that are retiring, right? We know that. You've got the younger generation that embrace technology and view things through a different lens. And then you've kind of got like the millennials who are out in the workforce looking to retire early and make Bitcoin money and all that kind of, that that have different. So there's been a push within our industry in the last, since the restart, to speak up and try to get people involved in trades, because what we pull from is we need trade skilled labor. Trade shows are a little bit unique, that you've got to have some raw construction type skills to troubleshoot issues on the floor when there's laminate chips and wood chips. There's a lot of system companies out there, so there's they're portable, modular, they're designed to be set up and taken down pretty quickly. So to be able to find people that have skills that can do those things and troubleshoot electronics when there are issues, and troubleshoot technology, and also be client facing, because you've got an exhibitor in a booth space, so they need to be able to communicate to the guys that are building and to the client professionally. So it's a trade, but it's there's not been a big push for trades in this country in a while. It's go to college and figure it out, right? So
I will add to that. That I think what's unique to your team, and the perfect example just happened this week. It's the customer service and the personalities. I would say that because I'm on the grounds, as you know. I was in Waste Expo last week. We got a call from a client in Pittsburgh, and forgot the speakers and the cameras, and those things happen. And I would say that one of the things that I know, that no matter what, the person on the ground from your team, they're going to get the job ready. One of your teammates went to Best Buy. We ordered the speakers. They picked it up, and we hope these things don't happen, but they're going to happen, But having, like I said, that's why I use the word extension of our team. This was not someone that calls back and said, this is not part of my job description. I'm not driving to Best Buy to get it done. In fact, it was the opposite. So we do appreciate that part. I think that your greatest strength is the personality and the people on your team. So,
well, it's our clients come to us. The biggest concerns they have, the biggest issues they have is communication, right? So we try to look for people that can, especially the lead men. The lead men need to be able to communicate, and embrace technology, pick up the phone if there's an issue or they're struggling or they don't understand something. And reach out for help, right? It's tough because a lot of people just want to do everything themselves. I don't need any help. Let me figure it out. But when your product is time and materials, and that's money, that clock is ticking. We've got to be efficient. We've got to procure this project on budget and on time. And, if there are issues that arise in the field, like that's where our partnership is being tested. Like we can sit in a conference room and have good conversation. It's when the stuff hits the fan and things go wrong, how do we react? How do we treat the situation? How do we communicate? That's the measure of who we are, when we're being viewed by clients and other exhibitors on the show floor,
Yeah, well, by the way, we're not R-rated, so when shit hits the fan, yes.
Shit hits the fan.
I've got a 4-year-old. You try to watch your language around
they're
them.
watching this podcast, they're well more advanced than a 4-year-old.
Yeah, right. If they're dealing with unions, I think they understand.
I would say, for us, and that's what the next part I want to talk about is your platform, your technology in your organization is what sold us on the services. We knew that from a labor perspective, our stuff is not that complicated that you'll be able to get it. But what we didn't know, in fact, I met Tony in San Antonio, I believe, or Houston, I don't remember where. And we did the installation, and I had to go to another event. And then about a couple hours later, I got an email from Tony with the breakdown of the installation with the app. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. I did not expect that because, when we kind of went back and forth, we said, let's try it. So I was very positively, surprised that, everything was organized in a way. And Dalia, if you can show some of the screenshot, they have an awesome app. They have a platform that keeps, I'm telling in this podcast, I'm telling my competition, I'm telling you, I have no problem with views on location because I feel like, they're one of the companies out there that they're very customer oriented. So having this platform and to be able to communicate to an exhibitor goes such a long way, especially when you're a fast tracking company and you have 5 or 10 installations every day. your client might not be there. Your exhibitor might be still traveling. They want the comfort to know that when they get to the show, everything is set and how it was set. So I feel like this app is a lifesaver, and it really helps us. We feel like our personnel is in the installation floor doing the job because we get that reporting back. So, John, my question to you is, obviously this technology is something that's evolving. Did you get to this point? What's coming on the
Our
technology
clients,
side?
Eitan, our clients push us. I mean, like I said, their biggest issues are communication. So when I started 20 years ago in this business, I had a little more hair, not on my face, on the top of my head, but as a young buck coming into this industry, there was concerns with just communication, how stuff communicated back, like technology. So they're looking for, the reason we got into the technology and the app and all that was because of the client communication. We need a tool that can communicate with them. Like I said, when I started in the business 20 years ago, there was no news is good news. So the account manager would send us the project in Orlando, and it's a big project, and we get all the information. Maybe we're missing some documents or some back and forth. We set up the booth, the client shows up, has a great show. We dismantle the booth a couple of days later, ship it off. We never hear from the exhibit house. And, so then we follow up with an invoice and like, oh, I guess that show went good. Or how did it go? So no news was good news in our world for a long time. But on location, for us, it's overly communicate. So when there's no news, we would rather communicate. So there's not that, hey, I guess I'm assuming this or that. We're going to communicate when we show up. Generally, the goal is within a half an hour of showing up to the booth space. We've got some pictures uploaded of how the freight showed up, the condition of the booth. Sometimes there may be a crate over the electrical, and we can't put flooring down because the crate's in the actual booth space, right? So we kind of document those things off the bat, and then kind of go from there. That first round of pictures is up. They may send pictures, progress pictures throughout the day. It depends on the scope of the project, and then again in the evening or when the project's done, photos completed. Just some quick notes like freight was in exhibit or had to go to the electrical desk, or such and such was missing some screws, but I went ahead and we had those, or it may be, so that from Popshap, you shipped in something, a screw was missing, hopefully we're catching that. So we may have replaced it, but when you get back and do your inspection, you've got some data. Hey, this thing was out in the field. What do I need to do with it? Did it work performance, flawlessly? Was there an issue with something? Is there some damage we need to know about? So the same thing at the dismantle, we take that same approach. Take pictures when we walk up. Sometimes clients give stuff away. Clients move stuff around. Maybe a monitor breaks. Maybe the client left early and it's just, there's collateral on the floor and we don't know what to do with it. So it's just, go ahead.
And I was saying, for us, we use the recap, the dismantle, as a sales tool. We communicate back to the client exhibitor, say, we finished the job. We hope everything was smooth. And what next show do you need us on, right? We kind of use it as almost like a feedback on the show. One of the things I wanted to know from your perspective, we're more in the technology side of things, and we see the technology evolving. You've been in the industry for 20 years, as you mentioned. To us, it feels like the furniture, the very bulky exhibits are coming out, and it's becoming more and more area and technology oriented, meaning more.
Oh yeah.
So my question to you on the technology side of things: how do you keep up with the education, with the training on new technology, and what you think is up in the trend of technology in your mind?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question. I mean, as far as over 20 years, we've seen the ebbs and flows. I've seen it from when shipping's not as expensive, you see more custom heavy wood structures. When wood and custom fabrication prices are lower, you see more of that. When you have high gas prices, freight prices are increased, you see more modular and portable. So there's been a couple of evolutions of cycles through that in my time in the industry. I remember what kind of drew me in as I was at a show in Orlando in 2002 or 3, and it was AUSA. Actually, I think it may have been Fort Lauderdale. A heavy technology show from a military standpoint, right? I saw the first drone I've ever seen, guys, it was a pretty heavily guarded military show, even during installation. So I saw a drone and I'm like, wow, that's cool. Flat screen TVs that just come out, so you go from these big square Sony 20-inch screens mounted to some kind of crazy structure to some flat screen plasmas that were heavy, so you see this evolution. And then I remember about 10 years later, Wi-Fi was really prevalent on the show floor, and because they had Cat 5, back in the day. So, but as Wi-Fi got faster, you started seeing a little more technology being brought in, depending on budget, because some of those hotspots are crazy.
Right.
So you started seeing, some of the Wi-Fi stuff coming in, and then that was kind of like a boom. You saw more screens, and then the structures, big transition from, again, wood. I mean, there's still a lot of wood out there, but to aluminum and fabric. The fabric printers got better. The high gloss or high saturation fabric printing went from 48 inches to 10 feet now. So you can do seamless large format graphic printing. That was all pretty early on back then. Dye sublimation and a whole different process. So, and then now almost everything we set up, there's a little mica media player. It may be a jump drive. It may be internet. It may be, a different technology. So for our guys, the younger guys generally help educate the older guys on the team, right? It's just kind of a natural. The younger people understand technology. When we do an app update, like we did a few months ago, you call the city managers, usually they're older and a little more tenured. Some of them were struggling a little bit with the tech, so they show a good lead guy knows how to do it. Then he's, educating his crew. He's educating the city manager if he needs to. So a lot of it, our guys work in teams, in whatever city, like they're moving around, right? So maybe there's 4 guys on a big booth today, and tomorrow there's 2 guys on something smaller. And then the next day there's 8 of them together. So there's constantly like a mix match of guys working together. And those guys educate each other, and make sure, talk each other up and
Keep on top. Yeah.
Hey, I don't do this, or hey, I work in this city and my city's slow, so I'm in a different city this week, and this is how we do things, and this is how we approach that. So, and we always encourage any sort of classes or technology. I mean, there's a lot. We've had guys in the past that want to learn AutoCAD, because they're reading prints all day, and they're like, well, maybe I want to be a designer, maybe I want to, improve my skill set for the company to add more value, so I make more money, right?
And I'm glad you made that point. We are actually in the early stages of organizing our what we call Beyond Interactive Conference, which will basically tailor for our partners and clients, right, to bring them into one environment, do the session seminars, educate our partners on the installation part, the new technology, what's trending. I'm sure in Exhibit Live you saw the force perspective content that we implemented, and that's a big trend for us right now. So with those trends and what the clients are looking for, right, they're pushing us down to execute more, and we ultimately want our partners to execute more. So the education has to be continued.
The market's driving the demand, right? I mean, your market's driving the demand and changing and evolving the product. We see some of the augmented stuff out, like, I could see that, like, as far as future trends,
I
maybe
think AR, VR, AI, chat GPT is taking a huge role in staffing. I think it's going to impact our industry greatly. We just launched our AI kiosk for organizers as well. So we do see that. Wow. I think the most important thing for us when we work with our partners is to make sure they're up to date with our information and our knowledge, because once they stay behind, it's harder, right? You mentioned It's an age thing. You'll get busy. So, and we want our partners to know exactly. I'm not worried if any of my partners going to compete with me, because I think competition is great for business. So there has to be transparency in education. And, we send videos of installation. I do it for us. A perfect solution is we send the equipment out from various warehouses and it gets installed and it gets worked. Perfect show, and it comes back to our warehouses. That's our perfect model. And it changes from smaller and larger booths. I wanted to ask you, you've experienced COVID from both ends, right? What do you think is the biggest message to other industry players? And I saw it at Exhibitor Live, and to me, I kept telling people, oh, well, it's not, the show floor is not busy. Everyone's telling me, well, this is an industry show. You're going to see the industry players, and you're going to get more ties with them, and it will generate more business, which I agree with. I just never can, for us, since we came into the industry pretty much post-COVID, we don't know what it was like before, right? We've only been in the business for 4 or 5 years, and take 2.5, which is COVID, right?
Right.
From your angle, what is the pre-COVID, post-COVID? What is that?
But the difference is, the biggest difference is, I mean, there's, I've seen, it seemed like before there was just a lot of, well, we're going to the show because we always go to the show. And whether that's from an exhibitor standpoint or an attendee, and then I think that was, people weren't as, I think the marketing dollars just flowed a little bit freely, right? So pre-COVID, like you take Exhibitor Live, I've been to that show where there's so many people when that show opens that you're a salmon swimming up river with so many people like moving through the crowd, right? But that doesn't always translate to business success at the show. You've got the people there for the giveaways. You got the people there because they always go, and then you've got the people that go for strategic reasons.
Right.
They're looking for a partnership, or they're looking for a product, or they're looking for something. So you've got a variety of reasons. And I think before COVID, it was like everybody's going, and then post-COVID, initially out of it, as shows started to pop back up, it was, okay, who wants to go? Because the world's crazy. So who wants to go to a show? And I think you weeded out the giveaway people and the candy searchers, or whatever you want to call them. And post-COVID, you've got decision makers that are going to shows. You've got influencers to the decision makers going to shows. You had about 2.5 years of lower show attendance, I think. And so there was some pent up demand, but there was also a lot of product innovation in 2 years of not having. So some of the shows I go to, like, there's been some significant jump, like AI. I mean, that's happened so fast, so there's been some jumps on the technology front, or, post COVID. And during COVID, it was virtual trade shows.
Right.
So there's folks out there that know my wife, and she's a creative director, but a designer, an exhibit designer. And, she had to come up with virtual exhibits, and we tried virtual show stuff. And to be honest, I thought post-COVID that would have survived, but it hasn't.
Yeah.
So it goes back to face-to-face marketing. People want to shake hands and meet and laugh and, and dress nicely at a show, and all those reasons why we go to show and have the nice dinners. And in the virtual, you just can't replicate that. Now, I still think there is a use for it, and especially,
this is a testimony to it.
Yeah.
We're here.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly. So
I would say, and you mentioned, dinners and all that. One of the things that I like about the industry, I used to like to travel. I'm doing travel right now because I'm in a point where I enjoy engaging clients, but the travel part is hard. But the upside is the camaraderie and in the social aspect with your team, right? You finish the installation, you feel the sense of achievement, and then you go to a bar, you socialize, you have a down day, and then you come back for a dismantle. I wanted to know how's that. I know a lot of your guys are local, so they're working in a local, but when they travel, do they have that social, grouping
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely. I mean, what we do, our industry is so unique. It's high stress. You're traveling. I was where did I go last week? I was in Vegas last week, and there was a family. I live in North Carolina. So there's a family at the airport in Charlotte, and they're traveling on vacation to Vegas. And I'm reminded, like, how hard it is for people that don't do it every day to hop on a plane. And I mean, everything you go through, Uber and baggage and this and that, like people forget about that, So like what we try to do for our clients with the communication tools, I mean, we touched on this earlier, is, just communicate with them. So they're not stressed as they're coming into town. Right. You take out some of those things from the equation, and it simplifies stuff.
no, you do
But
that, you win. I mean, and by the way, when I see that you guys are doing installation for us, I sleep because and our guys are fantastic. They're amazing, but there's almost only so much they can do and be in different places, and
but
we're growing our team. Just to say that, not to take business from our partners, we're growing our team so we can expand and add more capabilities. People think that, okay, you have more team, more hands. No, the higher you go in technology, like the LED technology that we're well invested in, you need like an engineer type content. People that and most of these guys are in the background. They're sitting in a computer in the office. When the physical is up and running, they log in, they do their thing, and that. So
yeah, absolutely. But booking stuff in advance, giving us plenty of time to prepare and plan. I mean, those things are super critical for just a smooth execution, because we already know the things we can't control: the weather that's carrying the truck across country with the product, with the crate inside the truck, the guy on the forklift that had a bad day and just doesn't seem to care about his job and just being careless with the crate. So when our guys are traveling and they're on the road and we're all living this stuff. You're living the crazy hotel life. We understand you may put 12 or 15 hours on the show floor, and we want to go, let's go break bread and have a good meal and an adult beverage and relax and take the load off. But it's the bonding that happens then. So then the next time when there's an issue the next day with something or other, like the team's just that much closer and you're working more lockstep,
100%.
And that's
it goes to Tracious because of the drinking. No, but
It's a perk.
It's a perk. I like to finish by saying, what do you think are the next 5 years looking for on location, and as a whole, our industry? What do you think that looks like?
I mean, from the labor side, the unions are aging fast. San Francisco's, it's upper 60s, late 60s now is the average age worker. So we have to figure out how to, attract new people into the industry from a labor standpoint. As far as labor goes, I would assume material handling and labor are going to be reduced, less structure, more screens, fabric screens, or whatever the next, less hard structure, probably less crates, should be less material handling. Now, that doesn't mean the carriers aren't going to raise rates if they see a significant drop in volume, or those companies are going to figure out how to make their money. But again, I think it's going to be full technology. I mean, we saw there's been some of the little fan things that spin around, the holograms, for a few years kind of popping up. I think, picture an AI chatbot guy like that as a booth staffer.
I mean, we have it in our house.
Yeah, right.
Hologram AI. It's actually, we're working on a project where the hologram speaks, and it's there.
We're going to look for companies like you, in Popshap to educate us and to keep us ahead of our competitors out there in the field, so we can stay educated and on top of the game. The tile stuff, like you see those tiles all over. There's some competitors out there. I mean, and so there's jurisdictional issues, I think, with the unions that are going to come up between the electricians and the people doing the booth. If that's all that's going to be the booth in the future is going to be the structure, You know, I mean, obviously there's product demos and stuff. That stuff's never going away. But a lot of the technology shows that are engineering or software based.
Yeah,
You
you
know,
saw with the exhibit live, it was all panels,
yeah.
no structure, and I think a lot of that is moving. Look, I want to say thank you for your partnership on a business note. On a personal note, you know, I met John's wife at Exhibit Live, and you know, my wife works in the industry, works with us, and I know your wife does as well. Which I take the hats down for them. I want to say Happy Mother's Day to your wife and my wife on this opportunity because
Happy Mother's Day.
they do sacrifice a lot. Being in this industry, whether you're a wife or a participant in the industry, is not easy. And we all know that. So I appreciate your time today because I know things are busy.
Yeah, we call them the trade show widows, right? Because there's 6 months of the year we're on the road, living out of a suitcase, traveling in the spring and fall, right?
We're driving to Maryland tomorrow for ITW, so we'll be there for a few days. So yeah, you know,
Taking the kids, for the weekend. Yep.
That's the weekend, you know. So.
I've had my daughter, she went to 2 trade shows before she was 6 months old because, you know, we were nursing and that's just what you have to do. So yeah, hats off to the moms. Happy Mother's Day. Popshap, fantastic company, cutting edge technology, phenomenal people to work with that are just down to earth. Like you want to be friends with these guys, right? Absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity and the platform, you guys.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you for joining us, John.
Thanks, Dahlia.
Thanks. Bye.